Spiritual Reflections, a Spiritist perspective on depression, a deep dive into the soul and spirit. Imagine living in a world where you can no longer find joy in the little things, where days become a succession of shadows, your energy feels drained, and the will to live disappears, replaced by an overwhelming existential void. This is the reality for millions of people who live with depression, an illness the World Health Organization calls the invisible illness of the century. The most intriguing part is that, even in an era of medical advancements, the deepest causes of this condition are not fully understood. To what extent can spiritual factors be responsible for this emptiness, for the anguish that so many feel? And more, is there a way to treat depression that doesn't just involve conventional medicine or psychological therapies? Is there a deeper, more spiritual path that can heal not only the body, but also the soul? In this video, we're going to explore depression from the perspective of Spiritism. We'll understand the spiritual roots of this illness, how spiritual obsession and karmic debts can influence the development of this disorder, and most importantly, how spiritual treatment can be a powerful tool in overcoming this affliction. Get ready for a profound journey where we'll address the spiritual aspects that traditional medicine often overlooks. Depression, an illness that goes beyond the body. Depression is commonly seen as a psychological and biological condition. For many, it's a chemical dysfunction in the brain, where there's a decrease in the production of essential neurotransmitters like serotonin, which is responsible for feelings of well-being. However, the Spiritist view teaches us that this limited perspective isn't enough to explain the mechanisms that truly cause depression. For Spiritism, an illness isn't just a physical failure or a matter of chemical imbalance. It is, above all, a manifestation of deeper spiritual problems, which often have roots in past lives or in processes of emotional and spiritual imbalance during the current incarnation. The spirit is the core of our existence, and everything that happens on the material plane is intimately connected to our spiritual state. According to André Luis, a spirit author, in the book No Solar, Our Home, physical illnesses are often reflections of our spiritual and moral flaws. Often, depression can be a reflection of karmic debts that we bring from past incarnations. Depression isn't a sentence, but an opportunity for atonement and learning. A spirit that carries the weight of its mistakes from past existences often needs to live through the suffering of depression to learn to free itself from guilt and remorse. The spiritual cause of depression. The spiritual cause of depression can be of various types. It can be related to obsessor spirits who take advantage of an individual's emotional weakness to intensify feelings of sadness, anguish, and despair. Troubled spirits often capitalize on negative thoughts and imbalanced emotions to influence a person's mind into a spiral of negativity. Additionally, just as Judas Iscariot, after his failure as a disciple, reincarnated as Joan of Arc, depression can be the result of spiritual debts accumulated in past lives where the individual was unable to acknowledge their mistakes or learn the necessary lessons. The lack of forgiveness, guilt, and remorse from past lives can generate a negative energy that manifests in emotional and spiritual problems. These spiritual debts can be brought to the surface in a new incarnation when the reincarnated spirit faces an illness like depression as a test to learn how to deal with their flaws and overcome the suffering they caused others in other lives. This means that depression can be a chance for spiritual healing, where the spirit has the opportunity to correct past mistakes. The influence of obsessor spirits on depression. Obsessor spirits are disembodied entities who, for various reasons, attach themselves to living people, generally feeding their anxieties and emotional crises. In the case of depression, these spirits can intensify feelings of worthlessness and deep sadness. They feed on the individual's negative emotional energy, draining their vitality and influencing their thoughts, often leading the person to isolate themselves and feel incapable of changing their reality. These spirits aren't necessarily evil in their essence, but they are trapped in their own suffering and therefore seek to reflect and intensify the pain they feel in others. They may have been people who, in their past lives, lived in similar situations, or are lost spirits who have not yet understood spiritual laws. Thus, by attaching themselves to a person in suffering, they contribute to a spiral of pain that ends up affecting both the possessed individual and the obsessor. However, the good news is that, in Spiritism, there is the possibility of liberation. Through spiritual clearing sessions and spiritual treatment, these spirits can be helped to move to a better plane and free the individual from the negative influence they cause. Spiritual treatment for depression, how Spiritism can help. Now that we understand the spiritual causes of depression, let's explore how spiritual treatment can help a person heal, not only physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. Spiritism teaches us that, in addition to conventional medical and psychological care, there is a spiritual approach that can be essential for recovery. The role of prayer and meditation. Prayer is one of the main tools used in the spiritual treatment of depression. When we pray, we raise our thoughts and feelings to a higher level, connecting with the positive energies of the universe. Prayer also helps to ward off obsessors, because when the spirit is focused on thoughts of light, it tunes into higher vibrations. Meditation is also a powerful tool because it allows the patient to reconnect with themselves, calm their mind, and begin to recover their inner peace. Meditating on the gospel, for example, can bring a new perspective on life's problems, helping the spirit find more balance and harmony. Spiritual passes and fluidified water, instruments of healing. In addition to prayer and meditation, the magnetic pass and fluidified water play fundamental roles in spiritual treatment. A magnetic pass is a technique used by healing mediums, where positive spiritual energies are transmitted to the patient, providing physical and emotional relief. This type of treatment can restore the patient's vitality and help clear stagnant energy in their spiritual body, promoting healing. Fluidified water is another resource used in spiritist centers to promote healing. The water receives spiritual energies from good spirits and can be consumed or used for energetic baths, providing a spiritual and emotional purification. Holistic treatment, the combination of earthly and spiritual therapies. In the treatment of depression, Spiritism teaches us that healing must be holistic. This means that a person should seek medical and psychological help to treat the symptoms of the illness, but they should also seek spiritual treatment. The combination of both treatments can lead to a deeper and more lasting recovery. Spiritual treatment also involves living the gospel, practicing forgiveness, and fostering self-awareness, working on the patient's mind so that they can free themselves from negative emotions and harmful thought patterns. If you believe that spiritual healing is an important complement to overcoming depression, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with your friends and family. Spread this message of hope. Leave a comment below about your experience with depression and how Spiritism has helped you or someone close to you find emotional balance. Healing is possible, and by connecting with spiritual energies, you can find the relief you've been looking for. Let's work together to build a world of healing, where depression is no longer the illness of the century, but becomes a story of overcoming and spiritual learning.